The rain had a way of making the street lights look like candles at a vigil. Water streamed off the porch roof in bright silver ropes as Darius yanked open the door and shoved Maya's wheelchair with a hard, angry push. The front wheels bumped the threshold. Her hands flew to the arms to steady herself. Her satin headscarf was damp already, catching raindrops like beads. He didn't look at her. He looked past her, past the woman he had vowed to love, toward the empty driveway as if even the night was tired of her. "You're not my wife anymore," Darius said, voice low and cruel. "You're a burden. I can't do this. I won't." He tilted the chair so the small front casters dropped onto the porch boards with a sharp clack. Maya's breath trembled. She had learned to master her face, to let the storm spend itself. Still the words cut. She had shared his rent before there was a mortgage. She had built the routines that kept his life smooth. The labeled folders, the reminders, the casseroles that stretched a paycheck. She had believed in him when his suits were 2 sizes too big and the bank account was 2 digits too small. But belief, Darius now showed, had an expiry date. "Darius," she said softly, "you don't mean that." He stepped behind her and forced the chair forward, onto the porch, into the rain. It struck her cheeks cold and she tasted metal. The wooden ramp that he had promised to finish 2 months ago stopped halfway down the steps, as unfinished as his patience. He jerked the chair sideways and dragged it toward the edge. The wheels bumped. The chair jolted. Maya inhaled, then the world pitched and the chair toppled. She caught herself with both hands, the impact shooting pain up her forearms, but she kept her head from striking the step. The chair clattered into the yard, upside down like a beetle. He threw her small overnight bag after it. Lotion, a scarf, the book she read on quiet afternoons, a folded photo of their wedding, everything burst across wet grass. "Get out," Darius said. "I said get out." There was silence for a breath. The neighbors' curtains were tight shut. Street dogs barked somewhere far off. A car rolled through a puddle and kept going. Maya pulled her good knee under her and balanced herself on the edge of the step. She wouldn't cry. She was not Rain. "Can I have my phone?" Darius lifted it and glanced at the glittering screen like it offended him. "I'll ship it to your father," he sneered. "If the big man will even take your call." He slammed the door. The sound was final, a judge's gavel in a small court with no jury. Maya sat, rain running down her face like a veil. She listened to the thunder move from one end of the sky to the other. In the yard, her chair lay helpless, wheels spinning, catching the light, still trying. She looked at her hands, small, capable, scarred in places, and lifted them to push off the step. The gravel bit her palms as she lowered herself. She slid one step, then another. The rain made the wood slick, but she moved like someone who had learned the map of pain and refused to be lost in it. By the time she reached the grass, headlights washed the street in a pale sweep. Not one car. A line. Black SUVs, tires whispering, engines low and even. They halted in slow sequence, a procession. The rain slackened as if to watch. Doors opened. Men and women stepped out in quiet suits with quiet hands and earpieces that glinted like tiny crescent moons. An umbrella sprang open, then another, then a third. Of all the sounds on that street, the rain, the cooling of engines, the drip from the gutters, the soft click of dress shoes on the pavement was the loudest. Maya closed her eyes. She knew that sound. From the middle SUV, a tall man stepped out first. He moved with the careful grace of one who had been watched his whole life and learned to turn every eye into a mirror. His beard was trimmed close, salt at the chin. His agbada, a deep indigo that read black in the wet night, carried the restrained confidence of a title that did not need announcing. A plain gold ring caught a flash of light as he adjusted his umbrella and took in the house, the yard, the toppled chair, and his daughter with rain in her eyelashes. Chief Obinna Okonkwo did not hurry. He walked to Maya the way elders walk to truth, directly, with respect, without theatrics. He crouched beside her and, for a breath, the billionaire was only a father. The line between his brows eased. The rain made a small river on the rim of his umbrella. He did not notice. "My daughter," he said, voice hushed and warm. "Were you sitting in the rain?" She exhaled, all the strength she had saved for an answer dissolving into the simple relief of being seen. "I was learning to sit in silence," she said, a tired smile at the corner of her mouth. "But the lesson is overrated." Behind the chief, 2 aides lifted the wheelchair, righted it, checked the brakes, and rolled it to the curb. One placed a folded towel on the seat without being told. The front door opened a crack. Darius peered out, confusion knitted to irritation. He saw the convoy. Saw the men. Saw the umbrellas. He stepped fully into the doorway, shirt half buttoned, jaw set. "What is this?" he asked. Who are you people? Chief Obinna turned. He did not step toward the house. He filled the space without moving an inch. The streetlight caught his eyes then, calm, dark, and clear like deep water. Good evening, Darius, he said politely. You can call me Maya's father. For a heartbeat, Darius did not understand. He had seen photos, read articles, heard rumors about gifts that changed a church's life and loans that turned small markets into markets that never closed. He had laughed along with friends about people with old money and older manners. He had joked that if such a man were ever his father-in-law, life would finally understand him. He had never met the man. You flew in? Darius stammered. I drove, Chief Obinna replied. From the airport. Darius's eyes flicked to the wheelchair, to Maya, to the aides, to the SUVs, and back to the man who had his daughter's face in the soft lines around his eyes. The rain, it seemed, grew loud again. Chief, Darius began, summoning a smile that had sold software and promises. I think there is a misunderstanding. Maya and I were. Darius, Maya said, her voice simple. Don't. He swallowed and you could see the swallow move. Chief Obinna's gaze rested on Darius with the kind of patience that made lies curdle in the mouth. In our place, he said, head tilting slightly, we say the snail that leaves its shell to borrow speed will soon long for shade. I have come to ask, which shell did you leave, son? Darius laughed weakly. Chief, with respect, we had an argument. Couples do. She'll be fine. We have arrangements. Arrangements, the chief repeated, tasting the word without hurry. He looked at the broken ramp, the slick steps, the scattered lotion, the old photo wet and face down in the grass. This is your arrangement? It's temporary, Darius said. She's been difficult. Ever since the accident there's been so much. Maya flinched. The chief's eyes shifted, scarcely perceptible, to his daughter's face. Then back to Darius. Ever since the accident, he said, softer now, there has been so much. On that you and I agree. He turned his wrist. A second SUV door opened. A woman in a dark suit approached with a slim folder, laminated against the rain. She handed it to the chief, who glanced at the top sheet, then offered it to Darius. You're an intelligent man, the chief said. Read. Darius took the folder. Rain dotted the plastic. He peeled it back. The first page bore the letterhead of a trust he had seen once on a list of donors that built a hospital wing in Port Harcourt. The second page showed a simple map of a neighborhood he knew very well. His neighborhood. His street. His house. A red outline traced the property lines like a teacher's correction. What is this? He asked again, but the question sounded smaller this time, like a boy's echo in a wide hallway. A correction, the chief said gently, of an earlier oversight. He nodded toward the house. When you married my daughter, we allowed love to be its own collateral. We allowed time to be the lawyer. But I am old enough to know what young men forget. Time is a slow lawyer and love is not a fool. 3 days after the accident, a deed was filed. Not by you. Darius blinked. He flipped another page. Legal language marched down the paper, neat and orderly. The name under owner of record was a name that pulled the ground 2 inches lower under his feet. Maya Okonkwo Whitaker. He looked up, blood slipping from his face. You. My daughter, Chief Obinna said, did not need a house she could not enter, or a husband who would not build her a ramp. But she received both. So we adjusted the records while you were adjusting your heart. One of the aides wheeled the chair beside Maya. Another offered his arm. She shook her head once. The aide waited. Then, at her nod, he helped her into the seat with quiet skill, the kind that does not bruise dignity. Maya settled, drew the towel over her lap, and sat taller. Darius, she said, and there was no tremor now. You put me in the rain. He had a smart reply ready, something about weather, about temper, about misunderstanding. It died in his throat. He thought of the clients he had charmed, of the lenders he had convinced, of the mentors he had promised to honor. He thought of the nights she had spent awake in pain while he slept beside her like stone. He thought of the unfinished ramp and how cheap it had seemed to hire someone. He thought of the man before him and the line of cars behind him and the line of choices inside him. The chief lifted his chin toward the house. There is one more oversight, he said, almost conversational. A smaller one. You have something that does not belong to you. What? Darius whispered. The keys, Chief Obinna said. To my daughter's home. Darius stared. For a moment the rain was all there was. Then, mechanically he reached into his pocket. The keys were warm from his hand. He held them as if they were the last dry thing he owned. Chief Obinna did not stretch his hand to take them. He stepped aside. He looked at Maya. "It is your door," he said. Maya watched the keys sparkle in Darius's palm. The porch light flickered, a moth battering itself against the glass. The street hummed with the tight, tuned breath of idling engines. Somewhere, a siren cried and faded, another story storm moving on. Darius took one step forward. Then another. He held the keys out. His hand shook. Maya opened her mouth to speak, then the house alarm chirped twice and the handle turned from the inside. The door swung open. A figure stood in the doorway, dry, composed, and very much not alone. "Good evening," the woman said, eyes moving from the convoy to the keys to Maya's face. "I believe this is an interesting time to discuss the transfer you initiated this afternoon, Darius." Behind her, a small child peered around her hip, blinking at the rain. Maya's fingers tightened on the chair arms. Darius froze. And Chief Obinna's quiet voice filled the space between thunder and breath. "Which transfer?" For a heartbeat, nobody moved. The rain softened to a hiss, the kind you hear under zinc roofs when the clouds are tired but not done. The woman in the doorway stood with the quiet certainty of someone who had decided something long before tonight. She wore a cream blouse and dark jeans, box braids tied back with a silk scarf. Her eyes were the steady kind, bookkeeper's eyes, nurse's eyes, the kind that see numbers and people with the same unblinking care. Darius found his voice. "Imani," he said, each syllable like a pebble under his tongue. "Why are you here?" Imani's attention did not flicker to him. It rested on Maya, on the wheelchair, on the towel, on the way dignity can sit up straight even in the rain. Then she glanced at Chief Obinna, took the measure of the convoy like she was balancing a ledger in her mind, and finally returned to Darius. "You didn't answer your phone," she said. "And the bank did." The little boy at her knee tugged the hem of her blouse. He was maybe 3 with round cheeks and a navy hoodie printed with tiny rockets. He pressed closer to her leg, peeking around her hip with wide, solemn eyes at the men with umbrellas, at the tall man in indigo, at the woman in the chair who looked like the moon when the clouds part. "Who gave you my key?" Darius asked, the brittle edge creeping back into his voice. "Who sold you this house?" Imani countered, mild as a teacher. "You forget what other doors come with a transaction." A drip fell from the porch light and burst on the threshold between them. Chief Obinna's chin raised a fraction. "Which transfer?" he asked again, the question placed on the table like a cup of water in a dry room. Imani shifted the folder in her hand. "2 actually," she said. "One from your company account at First Harbor to a new Delaware LLC and one," she glanced at Maya, regret softening the angle of her brow, "from the escrow attached to the Maya Wellness Fellowship to the same LLC, marked as a bridge loan." The bank flagged the second. Darius exhaled hard. "It's a cash flow bridge," he said quickly, words speeding as if they might outrun the truth. "Standard practice. We landed the state contract, Atlanta pilot going national, so we just needed to front the vendor payments. I was going to move it back next week." "Your board didn't approve it," Imani said. "The board will ratify when they see the growth." "And the fellowship?" she asked, quieter. "Was Maya going to ratify her own money being used to float your shortfall?" Wind stirred the jacaranda branches over the fence. Purple blossoms had fallen all week, dotting the lawn like someone had spilled a painter's jar. One clung to the axle of Maya's chair. She brushed it off with a fingertip and waited, because silence can be a better witness than speech. Darius made a restless, helpless gesture with the keys still in his hand. "Imani, we talked about this." "You talked at me," she said, the correction not unkind. "I told you what compliance would say. Then the bank called and I thought of your wife. So I came." Darius's mouth opened, shut, then opened again with a thin smile he had used to sell impossible timelines. "Imani is our operations lead," he told the chief, as if naming a role could put distance between people. "She's just being thorough." Chief Obinna looked past him, through the doorway, into a house that had held laughter and duty and now held something else. "Please," he said, voice even. "Explain the second transfer in full." Imani stepped onto the porch, staying just inside the line where the gutter's drip would not catch her. She held out a plastic-sleeved printout. The top half bore a bank letterhead. The bottom half showed a block of numbers, a company name, and a note field where the words "bridge loan," critical, marched like an excuse in capital letters. She kept her voice level because level is how you carry heavy things. "About a year ago," she said, "after the accident, the foundation launched the Maya Wellness Fellowship. Microgrants for accessible housing upgrades and small business pivots for people recovering from spinal injuries. The escrow keeps funds separate until disbursement. Today at 3:16 p.m., a request attempted to move $350,000 out of that escrow into a company that did not exist last week. The signatory name was copied. She looked at Darius, not accusing, just holding up the mirror. It was copied from Maya's signature page. The loop on the W is too perfect. Darius's ears flushed a hot, telling red. It was a placeholder, Imani. I was going to ask her. When? Maya asked finally. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Before or after the bank executed it? Darius's chest rose and fell faster. You don't understand the pressure. I'm carrying the company. Investors want velocity. Vendors want deposits. Everyone wants a piece. Meanwhile, I'm trying to be a husband and a nurse and a man, Chief Obinna offered, plain and unsparing. You are trying to be a man. The little boy tugged Imani's blouse again. She bent without taking her eyes off the men in the rain and the decisions that split a life. 1 minute, Zion, she murmured. Maya's gaze flowed to the child and softened without her permission. Hello, she said. It's late to be out. Zion's eyes met hers and did not look away. Children have a way of measuring rooms with their faces. He measured the porch, the night, the line of umbrellas, and then he measured Maya and seemed to find a number that made sense. He hid again behind Imani's leg, less afraid and more curious now. The present held its breath. The past decided it had waited long enough. They met in a room full of used tables and new laptops on Peachtree, in a co-working space that smelled like coffee and plans. Darius ran a small workshop on pitching, how to talk about what you were building until people could feel it. Maya, in her final year of a public health master's program, had come for a friend and stayed for the way his hands cut the air when he believed in a sentence. He had a laugh that leaked into the corners of the room like light. After, they walked down Edgewood and ate jollof in paper bowls from a pop-up that only opened on Thursdays. He talked about Lagos, the frenetic mercy of it, the way money and miracles slalomed between Danfos. She talked about Enugu summers and her mother's Atlanta winters, about learning that the body is not a war you win but a country you learn to belong to. He said he wanted to build tools that made bureaucracy kneel. She said she wanted to put ramps where doors pretended to be enough. They said yes to each other like a pact. The accident was a year later on Ozumbambadu, in rain like tonight but meaner. A delivery truck swerved. Glass did the thing glass does. A spine learned a new alphabet. Healing became a second graduate program and Maya was good at school. She learned what muscles could be persuaded and which ones must be befriended. She learned pain's schedule and its Sabbath. Darius learned how to lift and how to listen for a while. He got quieter, then quicker, then gone for whole afternoons on emergencies that looked a lot like staying at the office because the office asked for less. The ramp was half built the way promises can be half kept, which is to say not at all. Money taught its old, sharp lessons. There were invoices that insisted on being paid. Investors that wanted updates and a story with edges. An algorithm rollout delayed. A vendor who demanded cash and would not take equity in a dream. And underneath, like a drum no one acknowledged but everyone danced to, there was pride. Pride said real men do not ask for help. Pride said rich fathers make weak sons-in-law. Pride said a wheelchair in your hallway is a mirror you don't want to look into. In the present, Darius pressed his thumb hard into his palm, a trick he'd learned in debate to anchor his voice. Chief, he said, turning to the man whose calm hurt most. I protected Maya. Through surgeries. Through therapy. I carried this household. I only needed a week. The transfer would have come back. Protected, Chief Obinna repeated, tasting the word as he had tasted arrangements. Protection does not throw a woman into rain. Imani looked at the keys in Darius's hand, then at Maya's face, then back at him. Whatever private corridors existed between the two of them, she closed them now. She shifted the folder to her other arm and said, as if reading a line from a book that could not be altered, the bank froze the transfer pending verification. They also notified the foundation, which notified legal. That is why you have visitors tonight. Darius's breath stuttered. You went around me. You went around everyone, Imani replied. You went around your wife. He stared at her like a man who had expected rescue and found a mirror instead. Why are you with them? Imani's nostrils flared with a tiny, tired humor that did not reach her eyes. Because I work for the truth. And because this, she nodded toward Maya, is a person, not a line item. Thunder stumbled somewhere to the west. A car passed and slowed, rubber whispering in water, driver rubbernecking at a tableau that looked like a courtroom without walls. In the yard, the jacaranda shook down another handful of blossoms. Chief Obinna tipped his head toward the inside of the house. "We will not stand in the doorway all night," he said. "Darius, give my daughter her keys." The words were simple and old and final. Darius's fingers tightened until the veins stood in relief. Then, as if surrender finally negotiated with itself, he held out the ring of keys to Maya. She did not reach. She nodded to an aide who took them, wiped the rain with his sleeve and placed them in her palm. Metal chimed softly against metal. "Thank you," Maya said, and her tone made the two words heavier than the convoy behind her. Imani exhaled, a barely audible prayer of relief. Darius scraped together one last defense. "We can talk about the rest tomorrow. In private. This is a family matter." "A family matter," Chief Obinna agreed. "So let family finish it." Imani shifted as if to step back, then reconsidered. She put a hand on Zion's small shoulder. The boy had been patient in the way children are when they understand the adults are building a new map and no one knows the route. He looked up at Darius and then at Maya again. "Can I say it now?" Zion asked, small and brave, to no one in particular and everyone at once. Imani's lips pressed together. She hesitated. "Zion." Darius blinked at the boy, a frown starting like a storm on his brow. "Say what?" Zion released Imani's blouse and took one step forward on the threshold, into the frame of the doorway, into the center of the story. His voice was clear and certain, the way truth is when it hasn't learned to hide. "Hi," he said to Maya, lifting his hand in a tiny wave. "I'm Zion." He turned to Darius, face widening into a shy smile. "Daddy," he said as the rain stopped. The word daddy hung in the air like lightning that hadn't decided where to strike. Every sound, the rain dripping from the roof, the engines humming low, even the distant barking of a dog, fell silent. The porch seemed to tilt. Maya's hands froze on the wheels of her chair. Chief Obinna's eyes narrowed slightly, but his face remained composed, unreadable. Imani's breath caught. Darius's mouth fell open, the word echoing inside his skull, each syllable heavier than the last. "Daddy?" he repeated, his voice cracking halfway through. Zion's little hand dropped. He looked up at Imani, suddenly unsure. "Did I say it wrong?" he whispered. Imani knelt beside him, smoothing a small curl on his forehead. "No, baby," she said gently. "You said it right." The chief turned his gaze from the boy to Darius. His tone was calm but edged with something steel-hard beneath. "Explain." Darius blinked rapidly, his voice stumbling out in fragments. "Chief, this isn't what it looks like. I can explain." "Then do," the chief said evenly. Imani stood, keeping a protective hand on Zion's shoulder. Her jaw tightened, her eyes weary but firm. "He doesn't have to explain to me," she said quietly. "He already did, 3 years ago." Maya's chest tightened. 3 years. Darius turned toward her quickly. "Maya, please. This was before you, before the wedding." "It wasn't." "It wasn't what?" Imani cut in, voice sharp now. "It wasn't real?" It wasn't convenient to remember when she said, "I do?" The air thickened. The men with umbrellas shifted their weight, uneasy witnesses to something they couldn't unsee. Chief Obinna folded his arms. "You have a child you hid from my daughter?" Darius's throat bobbed. "It wasn't hiding. Imani and it ended before I married Maya." "Zion he wasn't supposed to?" "Wasn't supposed to exist?" Maya asked, voice quiet but trembling. Darius's shoulders sagged. "No, Maya, that's not what I meant." But Maya wasn't listening anymore. Her eyes, wide, brown, and full of that same quiet strength that had carried her through hospital nights, looked past him to the child. Zion, small and innocent, blinked at her as if trying to understand why the grown-ups had forgotten to breathe. "How old are you, sweetheart?" she asked softly. 3, he said proudly, holding up 4 fingers. Then he frowned, corrected himself, and tucked one back down. 3, she repeated. She turned back to Darius, her voice suddenly calm, too calm. "So he was born a few months after our engagement." "Maya, please," Darius said, stepping closer. "It was a mistake. I thought." Chief Obinna raised a hand, stopping him mid-step. "Don't move closer to her." "Sir, with all due respect." "Respect," the chief interrupted, his tone still measured, "is not a word you can use tonight." Imani exhaled shakily. "He told me he wasn't ready to be a father," she said, each word deliberate. "He sent some money for a few months. Then he disappeared. When I heard he was getting married, I didn't even know it was her. The woman I'd seen once, speaking at the foundation dinner, the one who started the wellness fellowship. I didn't connect it. Not until tonight." Maya's eyes welled, but she held herself upright. Her voice wavered once before it steadied. And you said nothing? Imani swallowed. I tried to protect my son from his mess. I didn't want Zion to be a weapon. But when the bank called and I realized where the stolen money was going, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. Stolen? Darius said quickly. You're making it sound criminal? Chief Obinna's expression did not change, but his voice lowered, a rumble like distant thunder. It is criminal. You forged a signature, misused funds meant for the injured, and tonight you put my daughter in the rain. The last sentence landed like a gavel. Darius took a half step back, sweat slicking his temple. Chief, please. I was desperate. Investors were threatening to pull out. Imani wouldn't cooperate. Imani turned to him sharply. You forged your wife's name, Darius. You called me that morning asking me to make it disappear. I told you no and you hung up on me. Maya's hand trembled slightly on her lap. She whispered, I thought love meant forgiveness, Darius. I thought you were just overwhelmed. I never imagined you'd. Her voice broke. She pressed her lips together, refusing to cry. Darius reached out a hand helplessly, but Maya flinched away. The chief placed a firm hand on her shoulder. You will not shed tears for him tonight. Imani closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them with quiet resolve. Chief, she said, there's more. When I went to the bank, they told me about a second file, one that wasn't finalized yet. What file? Maya asked. Imani handed over a second document, slightly damp from the rain. A transfer of ownership for your company's patent, filed under Darius's name alone. He was trying to remove your stake, Maya. All of it. Maya blinked, her lips parting in disbelief. My company? The one you started together after the accident, Imani said. The adaptive tech brand. He changed the signature line an hour before the bank flagged the other transfer. Chief Obinna exhaled deeply, his gaze darkening. So you threw her into the rain and tried to steal her life's work in the same night. Darius stepped back again, his voice breaking. Chief, please. I was cornered. I didn't know what else to do. You could have asked, Maya said, her tone rising now, no longer trembling. You could have told me. After everything I've lost, everything I rebuilt, I still would have helped you. But you didn't trust me enough to try. The chief turned slightly toward his driver. Mr. Uche, he said. Yes, Chief. Call Inspector Lawal. Tell him we have a matter of forgery and fraud to report. Darius's eyes widened. Chief, no. Please, don't bring the police into this. We can settle it quietly. This house was built on my daughter's inheritance, Chief Obinna said coldly. And you would have buried her dignity in its walls if we hadn't come tonight. Darius fell to his knees on the wet porch, rain soaking through his shirt. I made mistakes, he said hoarsely. But I still love her. I still love my wife. Maya stared at him, silent for a long time. Then she said softly, you love the idea of me. The version that could walk beside you. The version that didn't need you to look too closely. The child, sensing the storm between adults, tugged Imani's hand again. Mommy, can we go home? Imani's throat worked, tears gathering. Yes, baby. We'll go soon. Chief Obinna looked at his aide, who nodded once and stepped aside to let Imani and Zion down the steps. The boy turned back briefly, giving Maya one last look, a child's wordless compassion. She smiled faintly, that kind of smile that hurts but still means peace. When they reached the waiting SUV, the door closed with a heavy thud. Maya looked back at Darius, still kneeling. You took everything, Darius. But what you don't realize is, you already lost what mattered most long ago. Please, Maya? She raised a hand, cutting him off. No. You'll speak when the law asks you to. Chief Obinna placed both hands on the wheelchair handles and began to turn it toward the car. Darius reached out suddenly, desperate. Chief, please. Give me a chance to make it right. I'll give back the money, The chief stopped, turning his head just slightly. His eyes were calm, almost pitying. Son, he said quietly, a man who forgets mercy has no right to beg for it. He started rolling his daughter away, the convoy lights reflecting off the wet street like molten gold. As they reached the car, Maya turned her face toward the window. Through the glass, she could see Darius still kneeling in the rain, small, soaked, and shivering. And just as the car door closed, a pair of headlights swept across the driveway. A police van stopped at the curb. 2 officers stepped out. Are we at the right house? One asked. Chief Obinna nodded once. Yes. Arrest him. Darius looked up, face white. Wait, Chief, please. But it was too late. The handcuffs clicked. And just before the siren wailed to life, Maya whispered under her breath, "Sometimes the rain doesn't wash you clean, it shows what was always dirty." The convoy rolled away into the night as thunder cracked again over Atlanta's skyline. Tell us your thoughts in the comments. And if you're still watching this emotional story, remember to like this video, subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Morning broke slowly over Atlanta, shy and gray after the night's storm. The streets steamed where puddles met the rising sun, and the smell of wet earth hung heavy in the air. In the driveway of the modern suburban house that had once been filled with laughter, yellow police tape fluttered lazily. The front door stood open, damp footprints marking the porch where everything had fallen apart. Inside, the silence was deafening. The portraits that once hung proudly on the wall, wedding photos of Maya and Darius smiling under a canopy of white lilies, were gone. The police had taken them down for evidence. On the floor, a shattered frame lay face down. The glass had broken right across Maya's face, leaving Darius's image untouched. At the police station downtown, Darius sat in a holding cell, his once white shirt wrinkled and stained with rainwater and regret. His lawyer, a tired-looking man in a dark suit, stood outside the bars shaking his head. "They're serious about this, Darius," the lawyer said. "Forgery, misappropriation of funds, and potential theft of intellectual property. This isn't something you can talk your way out of." Darius leaned forward, gripping the cold metal bars. "I wasn't stealing," he said. "I was borrowing. You know how startups are. Money moves fast. I just needed to keep things running." The lawyer sighed. "You forged your wife's signature, and the funds came from her charitable foundation. You didn't just cross a line, you burned it." Darius sank back onto the bench, running his hands through his hair. His eyes were hollow, rimmed red from a sleepless night. "She wasn't supposed to call her father," he muttered. "If Chief Obinna hadn't shown up, I could have fixed it all." "Chief Obinna is a billionaire with lawyers that could buy this city block," the attorney said flatly. "You picked the wrong woman to betray." Darius's laugh came out broken. "Yeah, seems like I did." Meanwhile, across town in the penthouse suite of the Royal Palm Hotel, Maya sat by a wide window, sunlight pouring across her lap. The city below glittered with motion. Cars, people, possibility. Her wheelchair was turned slightly toward the balcony where her father stood, phone pressed to his ear, speaking in Igbo. His voice was calm but firm, the voice of a man used to fixing what others ruined. When he hung up, he turned to her. "The lawyer will handle the press," he said. "They will try to twist the story. Say you ruined your husband's company. But the truth will stand." Maya nodded slowly. "Let them say what they want, Papa. I'm done hiding." Chief Obinna walked over and sat beside her, his presence solid and warm. "My daughter," he said softly, "I failed you once. I should have made him prove himself before I let him into our family." She smiled faintly. "No, Papa. I chose him. And I learned. That's not failure, it's a lesson." The chief's eyes softened with pride. "You speak like your mother." "Do I?" "Yes. Strong even when your heart is broken." That was her gift. For a long moment they sat in silence, watching the sunlight crawl up the skyline. Then Maya turned, her voice steadier now. "Papa, I don't want revenge. I just want my peace." He nodded. "Peace, yes. But justice too. They can walk together." A knock came at the door. One of the aides entered. "Chief, ma'am, there's someone here to see you." Maya frowned. "Who?" The aide hesitated. "A woman named Imani, and her son." Maya blinked in surprise. "Imani?" "Let her in," the chief said. Moments later, Imani stepped into the suite. She looked tired but composed, her hair wrapped in a vibrant Ankara headscarf, a little hand clasped in hers. Zion clung shyly to her leg, his rocket hoodie freshly washed. "Maya," Imani said softly. "I didn't come to intrude. I just wanted to check on you, and to say thank you." "Thank me?" Maya asked gently. "You're the one who came forward." Imani shook her head. "I came because I was angry. You stood in the rain because of him and I realized I'd been standing in a different kind of rain for years, quietly pretending it didn't hurt. You gave me the courage to stop hiding." Maya's eyes glistened. "You didn't owe me that." "Maybe not," Imani said, "but Zion deserves better than a secret." She looked down at her son, who was now staring curiously at the large window overlooking the city. "He deserves to know truth even if it's messy." Chief Obinna rose and extended his hand to her. "You are a brave woman," he said. "You did what many would not. My family is in your debt." Imani smiled faintly, shaking his hand. Your daughter saved me too, Chief. Her story, her foundation, it gave people like me hope. I never thought she'd be the one I'd end up protecting. Zion tugged at his mother's sleeve and looked up at Maya. Are you okay now? He asked in his small, honest voice. Maya's smile warmed the room. I'm better now, Zion. Thank you for asking. He nodded, satisfied. Good. 'Cause Mommy said good people should be okay. Chief Obinna chuckled softly. Wise boy, he said. You will do great things, young man. Zion beamed. Hours later, when the suite was quiet again, Maya sat back in her chair, looking out at the horizon. Her father was making calls in the next room, arranging for lawyers, press briefings and statements. But Maya wasn't thinking about any of that. She was thinking about how quickly life could shift, from love to betrayal, from pity to power. She remembered every word Darius had said that night, every look he gave her that told her she was less. But now, as the city moved on beneath her, she realized something she hadn't before. She had never been less. She had been strong all along. It was Darius who had been small. A knock sounded again, gentle this time. Come in, she said. The door opened. One of her father's aides stepped inside, holding a white envelope. This just came for you, ma'am. From the police station. Maya took it and opened it carefully. Inside was a short letter in Darius's handwriting. Maya. They're saying I might face 10 years. I know I deserve it. I don't want you to forgive me, I just need you to know that I'm sorry. I lost sight of what mattered. I lost you before I even realized I was pushing you away. If there's anything left in your heart, please tell your father not to press charges. I know it's a lot to ask. But even if you don't, I'll understand. Darius. Maya read it twice. Then she folded the letter and placed it gently on the table. When Chief Obinna walked back in, she looked up at him. Papa, she said quietly, he sent me a letter. What did he say? That he's sorry. Her father's face hardened. Regret is the shadow of guilt, my daughter. Don't mistake it for repentance. I know, she said softly. But still, I want to meet him. He frowned. Meet him? Yes, Maya said, her voice calm but sure. Not to forgive. Just to understand. Chief Obinna studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Then we will go tomorrow. But I will be with you. Maya looked back out the window, sunlight brushing her face. That's all I need, Papa. Outside, a small flock of birds broke through the clouds, wings glinting gold against the sky. It was the first clear morning in days. But little did Maya know, the meeting she planned for peace would uncover something that would change everything she thought she knew about Darius, and about herself. The next morning dawned clear and warm, the kind of morning that pretends nothing bad ever happened. The streets glowed gold with sunlight, and the air carried the soft hum of weekday traffic. Maya sat in the back seat of her father's black Mercedes, her wheelchair folded neatly beside her. Chief Obinna sat across from her, his face solemn, his eyes hidden behind dark shades. They were headed to Fulton County Jail. The drive was quiet. The city rolled past in slow frames, families waiting at bus stops, fruit vendors setting up under umbrellas, joggers moving in rhythm with their music. But inside the car, tension thickened with every mile. Are you certain about this? Chief Obinna finally asked, his deep voice breaking the silence. Yes, Papa, Maya said. I need to see him face to face. I want to know why he did it. Maybe not for him, but for me. He nodded slowly, still uneasy. A man like Darius doesn't always know why he falls, my daughter. Pride blinds before greed finishes the job. I just want to hear the truth from his mouth, Maya said, looking out the window. No lawyers. No lies. Chief Obinna sighed. Then may your spirit be strong enough to face it. The car turned into the gated entrance of the detention facility. Security officers recognized the chief immediately. His presence carried the quiet weight of reputation. They moved quickly, opening the gates, clearing the way. Inside the visitation hall, fluorescent lights buzzed faintly. The air smelled of disinfectant and paper. A glass partition divided the room with a line of phones fixed to the wall. Maya's wheelchair was positioned on one side and on the other, a door opened. Darius walked in. He looked thinner, his once carefully trimmed beard now rough at the edges. The arrogance that used to fill his shoulders was gone. His prison uniform, a dull orange, hung loosely on him. When he saw Maya, he froze mid-step. His hands trembled as he picked up the phone on his side of the glass. Maya did the same. Their eyes met. No words at first, only the heavy silence of two people who had shared a life and broken it. You came, he said finally, his voice hoarse. I did, she replied. You said you wanted me to hear your apology. Now's your chance. Darius exhaled shakily. Maya, I never stopped loving you. I swear. I just lost control. Everything was falling apart. Investors were threatening to pull out, debts piling up. You wouldn't let me ask your father for help, and I... You didn't ask, she interrupted. You forged my name. You betrayed everything we built. He flinched at her tone. I know, he said. And every second in here reminds me. I just didn't want to be the man who lived off his wife's pity. Maya's eyes hardened. So instead, you chose to become the man who stole from her? I was trying to prove myself, Darius said, his voice breaking. You have no idea how small I felt, watching you thrive, watching everyone call you brave and brilliant. I should have been proud, but all I saw was my own failure. I started believing I didn't deserve you. You were right, she said softly. He closed his eyes briefly as if her words were a physical blow. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just want you to know I didn't mean to hurt you. I lost my way. Maya's fingers tightened on the phone. You didn't just hurt me, Darius. You hurt the people who believed in us. You made a mockery of every person who looked up to the Maya Wellness Fellowship. You made me a story they'll whisper about. He shook his head violently. No. You'll rise again. You always do. She hesitated, watching him closely. Why did you try to remove my name from the patent? That wasn't desperation. That was deliberate. Darius swallowed. Because someone told me it was the only way to save the company. Someone? He nodded. A man named Vincent Adebayo. He said he had connections, investors willing to rescue us. But he wanted sole ownership on the documents. He promised to transfer it back after funding cleared. I was stupid enough to believe him. Maya frowned. The name rang faintly familiar. Vincent Adebayo? The venture capitalist. Darius nodded weakly. Yes. He's powerful, Maya. Too powerful. When I refused to give him control of the whole foundation, he threatened to expose the financial hole I was in. He said I'd lose everything, and he was right. He's the reason I panicked. The reason I forged the transfer. Maya's stomach tightened. Are you saying this Vincent man pushed you into this mess? I'm saying he planned it, Darius replied. He wanted your foundation. He wanted your patent. I was just the tool he used. For a moment, Maya couldn't breathe. Her mind flashed back to the fundraising gala months ago, where she had briefly met Vincent, a charming man with a too-smooth smile and a compliment for everyone. She remembered how his handshake lingered, how his words dripped with admiration for her pioneering project. She'd felt something off then, but Darius had convinced her the man was an ally. Now she understood. Maya leaned closer to the glass. If what you're saying is true, you need to prove it. Names, records, emails, anything. I can try, Darius said, desperation flaring. He covered his tracks, but I still have a few messages saved. If you help me get them out, we can expose him. Maya said sharply. After everything you've done, you think we're still a team? He looked down. No. I need you to know the whole truth. Maya took a deep breath, her mind racing. Betrayal had layers, and this one had just deepened. I'll find the truth myself, she said finally. Not for you, but for the people you almost destroyed. She hung up the phone, but before turning away, Darius pressed his palm to the glass. Maya, he said quietly. You think you're free from me, but if Vincent gets what he wants, neither of us will be. She stared at him for a long, silent second, then wheeled herself back as her father entered the visitation room. Chief Obinna's gaze swept over Darius with calm disdain. You are lucky my daughter has more grace than I have patience, he said. If even one word of what you said about Vincent is true, I will see to it that he falls harder than you. He turned the wheelchair toward the door. Let's go, Maya. As they exited the facility, the midday sun hit her face. But even under its warmth, a cold realization spread through her chest. Darius was guilty, yes, but perhaps he wasn't the only villain in the story. Vincent Adebayo, the man who smiled like a friend, was still free. And if his influence was as deep as Darius claimed, then the fight was far from over. Maya glanced up at her father. Papa, she said softly, we're not done yet. The chief looked down at her, his eyes narrowing. Then we will begin again, he said. And as their car pulled away from the prison, Maya stared out at the city skyline, her reflection merging with the bright glass towers, knowing that the next battle would not be for love or betrayal. It would be for justice. 3 days later, the sky over Atlanta shimmered a deep orange, the kind that carried both promise and warning. From the balcony of her father's estate overlooking the Chattahoochee River, Maya sat wrapped in a light shawl, the wind lifting the corners of her scarf. On the table before her lay a thick folder, documents, contracts, bank statements, evidence that told stories people tried to bury. Across from her, Chief Obinna spoke quietly into his phone. Yes, Keen. Quietly. No leaks until we're certain. If this man Vincent Adebayo has touched our family's name, I want every stone turned over. He ended the call and turned to Maya. We have confirmation. Vincent Adebayo's company, Virginia Tech Holdings, received a sudden $350,000 transfer the same night Darius tried to move the foundation's money. But it wasn't from your account, it was rerouted through a shell company. Maya's eyes darkened. So he's laundering stolen charity money through Darius's panic. Exactly, the chief said. And using your husband's fall to stay clean. Maya exhaled slowly, closing the folder. Then we need to expose him. Publicly. Her father nodded but cautioned, carefully. Vincent is powerful, my daughter. He has senators and CEOs in his debt. We will not fight him with noise, we will fight him with precision. At that moment, Maya's phone buzzed on the table. The name on the screen made her stomach tighten. Imani. She answered. Imani? Maya? Imani's voice came quick and uneasy. You need to see something. Right now. What is it? It's about Vincent Adebayo. He just called me. Maya sat up straighter. He called you? Why? He said he knows I was the whistleblower who helped expose Darius. He offered me money to stay quiet about the bank transfers. Maya's grip on the phone tightened. How much? $500,000, Imani said bitterly. Said it's a thank you for cooperation. I told him no. But Maya, he knows where I live. And he knows about Zion. Chief Obinna, overhearing, stood immediately. Put it on speaker, he ordered. Maya did. Imani, you're safe, yes? I am for now. But he's watching me, Chief. You need to stop him before he tries to disappear. I recorded the call, send it to your daughter's email. Good, Chief said firmly. Stay inside. I will send protection tonight. Imani exhaled shakily. Thank you. And Maya, be careful. If he could manipulate Darius, he won't hesitate to come after you too. The line went dead. Maya's father was already dialing his head of security. Dispatch 2 men to Ms. Imani's residence in East Point. Full surveillance until I say otherwise. Maya stared at the river below, her heart pounding. He's desperate. He's trying to cover his tracks. Her father turned to her. He is more than desperate, he is cornered. And a cornered man is dangerous. That evening, Maya met with her foundation's legal counsel, a sharp-minded young attorney named Chioma Nwosu. Chioma was known across Atlanta's corporate world for her precision. Her words could slice through deceit like a surgeon's scalpel. Chioma adjusted her glasses and scanned the documents. This Vincent is good, she said, tapping a page. He used 3 shell companies, Zinkrest Logistics, Orbital Ventures and Virginia Tech Holdings. The trail goes through 2 banks and a crypto wallet. But there's a flaw, each company registered with the same IP address. Maya leaned forward. So we can link them? Chioma smiled faintly. Oh, we can do more than link them. We can bury him with evidence. Chief Obinna placed a hand on the table. Then do it. Whatever you need. Chioma nodded. I'll file the documents with the Attorney General's office by morning. But Maya, I need you to be prepared. If this goes public, Vincent will retaliate. He may come for your foundation, your reputation, everything. Maya looked out the window, her reflection layered over the city lights. Then let him come. I've faced worse storms. Meanwhile, across town in a penthouse downtown, Vincent Adebayo swirled whiskey in a crystal glass as his assistant read the day's headlines aloud. Philanthropist Obinna Okonkwo Whitaker files federal complaint against alleged corporate extortion ring. Vincent smirked. She's smarter than her husband ever was, he said, voice smooth as silk. But she's making noise. The assistant hesitated. Sir, should we? Vincent turned sharply. No, not yet. The woman wants war? Let her have the illusion of victory first. Then we'll remind her who writes the rules. He set the glass down, eyes narrowing at the city skyline. Prepare a meeting with the governor's liaison tomorrow. If I'm going down, I'll make sure she burns with me. The next morning, Maya stood before a row of microphones at a press conference downtown. Cameras flashed. Journalists called out questions. Her foundation's logo gleamed behind her on a blue banner. She took a deep breath, glanced briefly at her father seated in the front row, then began. Good morning. My name is Maya Okonkwo Whitaker, founder of the Maya Wellness Fellowship. 3 days ago, I discovered that funds meant for disabled rehabilitation and small business recovery were redirected through illegal accounts under corporate entities tied to Mr. Vincent Adebayo of Virginia Tech Holdings. Murmurs swept the room. She continued, voice steady. Many of you know me as a survivor, an advocate, and a businesswoman. But today I'm standing here as a warning that greed wears a kind face. That corruption doesn't always come from enemies, but from those who call you partner. The crowd leaned forward, cameras clicking in bursts. My team and I have submitted verified evidence to federal authorities, she said firmly. And we will not rest until justice is done, not just for my family but for every person whose pain was turned into profit. The applause that followed was thunderous. But somewhere in that crowd, hidden behind sunglasses and a baseball cap, Vincent Adebayo watched her, expression unreadable. He clapped once, slowly, deliberately, and whispered under his breath, "You've declared war, Mrs. Whitaker. Let's see if you can survive it." That evening, as Maya's convoy drove home, Chief Obinna's phone buzzed with a message from one of his aides. He read it, his expression tightening. Maya noticed. "What is it?" He turned to her gravely. "Imani. Her house was broken into an hour ago." Maya's heart dropped. "Is she?" "She's safe," he said. But the men took her laptop and phone. Maya's fingers clenched around the armrest. "He's covering his tracks. Vincent's trying to erase the recordings." Chief Obinna nodded grimly. "Then it's time to play his game our way. If he wants to fight in shadows, we will bring him into the light." Maya met his gaze, determination flickering in her eyes. "Papa," she said, her voice low but firm. "Then let's finish what Darius started. Only this time we'll do it right." Chief Obinna smiled faintly, pride softening his stern face. "Ah, my daughter," he said. "You have my blood. We fight not with rage, but with truth." Outside, lightning flared once across the Atlanta sky, turning the city into a mirror of light. A storm was coming again, only this time Maya would not be the one standing in the rain. The rain returned that night. Not the kind that soaks the earth softly, but a heavy, urgent downpour, the kind that drums on rooftops like a warning. Maya stood by the large window in her father's study, staring out at the streaks of lightning that split the sky. Her reflection glowed faintly in the glass, stronger now, yes, but tired too. Behind her, Chief Obinna sat at his desk surrounded by folders and screens. He had been on the phone for hours, his voice calm and commanding in alternating languages. Every now and then he looked up at his daughter with pride and worry. "You should rest," he said finally, lowering the phone. "I can't," Maya replied quietly. "Not until this is over." The chief exhaled. "Then sit," he said gently, motioning to the armchair beside him. She rolled closer, folding her hands in her lap. "Vincent Adebayo is panicking. Our contact at the Ministry of Commerce confirmed his accounts are being audited. His lawyers are scrambling." Maya's lips curved into a faint smile. "Good. Maybe justice still works after all." Her father gave her a look. "Justice always works, my daughter. It just moves slowly, like a wise tortoise that never forgets the path home." Before Maya could reply, her phone buzzed sharply on the table. She checked the screen and froze. Unknown number. The message preview read, "You think this is over? Check your inbox." Her heartbeat quickened. She opened her laptop immediately, logging into her email. A new message sat at the top. No subject line, no sender name, just an attached video file. "Papa," she whispered. He sensed something. Chief Obinna leaned forward. "Play it." The video opened to grainy footage of an upscale hotel room. Vincent Adebayo sat in a leather chair, glass of wine in hand, facing the camera. His voice was smooth and cold. "Mrs. Whitaker," he began, "you've made a powerful mistake. You think you can ruin me with papers and pity? You forget who made your company possible. The investors you cherish, they answer to me. You want the truth? Fine. Here's the truth." He gestured to someone off camera. A door opened, and to Maya's shock, Darius stepped into frame, dressed in a gray prison jumpsuit. His face was pale, nervous, eyes darting to Vincent like a man trapped. "Tell her," Vincent said, swirling his glass. "Tell your wife how deep this goes." Darius swallowed. "Vincent, please don't do this." "Oh, I think she deserves it," Vincent said, smirking. "Tell her about the research grant. The one you both received from Adebayo Ventures, and how her dear father's name was on the board that approved it." Maya's breath caught. "You see," Vincent continued, "this isn't about money anymore. It's about power. Your foundation, your success. It's all built on my investments. The difference is you wanted to use charity to make peace with guilt. I use business to remind the world who holds the leash. He leaned closer to the camera. Withdraw your complaint, Mrs. Whitaker. Or I'll make the entire world believe you were the fraud. The video ended abruptly, the screen going black. The room fell silent. Only the ticking of the grandfather clock dared to move. Chief Obinna's jaw clenched. That man just declared war on my family. Maya's mind was spinning. He has footage of Darius. He must be bribing him inside prison. And if he's right about that grant. The chief cut in sharply. I do not answer to that snake. Yes, my name was on the oversight board, but the grant was fair, legitimate, and earned. He's twisting half-truths to make poison. Maya's hands trembled slightly on her lap. Papa, if he releases that video, people will believe him. He'll ruin everything I've built. Then we'll ruin his lies first, Chief said firmly. Chioma will verify the audit trail. Every transaction. Every approval. Maya's phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. You have 24 hours. Pull the complaint, or I'll release the video to every news outlet in Atlanta. The chief stared at the screen. Coward, he muttered. Hiding behind screens. Maya looked at him, resolve hardening in her eyes. Papa, let me handle this. He frowned. What are you thinking? I'll meet him, she said. Face to face. Chief Obinna's eyes widened. Absolutely not. You will not go near that man. I have to, she insisted. He won't stop until he sees I'm not afraid of him. If he wants to play power games, I'll show him who he's dealing with. Her father shook his head. You think courage will tame a viper? No, Maya said quietly. But it will make him strike where I want him to. The chief studied her face for a long moment. Then reluctantly he said, if you're set on this, you won't go alone. I won't, she promised. I'll take Chioma. She's my legal shield. The chief's hand rested on hers. Be careful, my daughter. He is not just corrupt, he is cunning. I learned to deal with cunning men the day Darius pushed me into the rain, Maya said softly. The next afternoon at the rooftop restaurant of the Monarch Hotel, Vincent Adebayo sat at a private corner table, dressed in a crisp navy suit. He was sipping espresso when Maya arrived, wheeling herself forward with quiet grace. Chioma followed close behind, tablet in hand. Vincent stood with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Ah, Mrs. Whitaker. You are even braver than the rumors say. Maya stopped her chair across from him. I'm not here for your compliments, Mr. Adebayo. I'm here for the truth. Then you came to the right place, he said smoothly. I always tell the truth when it suits me. Chioma opened her tablet. This meeting is being recorded, she said evenly. Vincent's smirk faltered for just a second. How legal of you. Now, Maya said, voice steady, you have something that belongs to me. Evidence you claim can destroy me. I'm giving you one chance to hand it over. Vincent chuckled softly. Oh Maya. You think you're in control because you brought a lawyer? You don't understand. This city bends to money, not morality. And in this city, I am the weather. Maya leaned forward slightly, her voice calm and sharp. Then I guess you've forgotten. Storms end, Mr. Adebayo. And when they do, the earth still belongs to those who survive them. Vincent's smirk froze. You're bold? I learned from men like you, she replied. The ones who mistake compassion for weakness. He stood, adjusting his cufflinks. You have until tomorrow morning to withdraw your case. After that, your reputation becomes my next investment. He turned to leave, but Chioma's voice stopped him cold. Actually, she said, swiping across her tablet, you may want to check your email. Vincent frowned, pulling out his phone. His screen lit up, and his expression changed instantly. What is this? He demanded. Chioma smiled. The results of our private investigation. Every illegal transfer, every shell company, every bribe, forwarded to the FBI, SEC, and the national press. Oh, and the footage you sent to Maya? It's already been authenticated and traced to your laptop. Vincent's jaw tightened. You can't. Maya interrupted softly. You should never threaten a woman who's already lost everything once. She's got nothing left to fear. Vincent's hand twitched, just slightly, then he smiled again too calmly. Well played, Mrs. Whitaker. But don't think this is over. Oh, I don't, Maya said. I think it's just beginning, for you. He turned and strode out, but not before whispering to her as he passed, You've made an enemy who never forgets. Maya watched him go, her reflection glimmering faintly in the glass wall behind him. Then let him remember me standing, she murmured. Chioma smiled proudly. You did it. Not yet, Maya said quietly. He's cornered now. And cornered men don't run, they bite. She looked out over the Atlanta skyline. The wind tugged at her scarf, lifting it like a flag. Let him come, she said. I'm ready. And far below, unseen in the shadowed parking lot, a black SUV idled quietly, its engine humming, its tinted window cracked just enough for a man's hand to flick a cigarette into the rain. Vincent hadn't gone far. He was watching, waiting, plotting his next move. The rain had stopped by morning, but the air still carried its chill. The clouds were thinning, revealing faint streaks of light over Atlanta's skyline. Maya hadn't slept. She sat by the window of her father's estate, the city still half draped in shadow, a cup of untouched tea beside her. The events of the last 24 hours replayed in her mind like a film she couldn't pause. The confrontation, Vincent's threats, Chioma's fearless reveal, and that cold whisper as he walked past her. You've made an enemy who never forgets. Her instincts told her the battle wasn't over. Just as the first ray of dawn crept across the marble floor, Chief Obinna entered, phone pressed to his ear, his face grave. He ended the call slowly, then looked at his daughter. Maya, he said quietly, Vincent Adebayo was arrested at his home last night. Maya blinked. Arrested? Yes. The FBI raided his penthouse around midnight. Fraud, money laundering, embezzlement, coercion. The list is long. Chioma's evidence was airtight. They caught him trying to leave town. For a moment she just stared at him, relief and disbelief colliding in her chest. So, it's over? The chief gave a slow nod. For him, yes. For us, not quite. There will still be trials, interviews, lawyers. But my daughter? His expression softened, pride glinting in his tired eyes. You fought well. You didn't just clear your name, you protected your mother's legacy. Maya swallowed, emotion tightening her throat. I didn't fight alone, Papa. You stood with me. He smiled faintly. That's what fathers are for. There was a soft knock on the door. An aide stepped in holding a small white envelope. Chief, a courier dropped this off just now. It's addressed to Mrs. Whitaker. Maya took it. The handwriting was familiar, slanted, tense, unmistakable. Darius, she whispered. She unfolded the letter carefully. Maya. They moved me to a safer block after Vincent's arrest. He tried to have people inside silence me, but the police got to them first. I told them everything I knew. I gave them the trail that led to him. It's not redemption, but it's something. I don't expect forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. But I saw the press conference. You looked strong. You looked free. That's all I ever wanted for you, even if I had to lose you to learn it. Take care of yourself. And if you ever think of me, remember me as the fool who learned too late what love really means. Darius. Maya read it twice before folding it again. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She just sat still, letting the quiet of the morning settle over her like closure. Her father reached over and rested a hand on hers. You are free now, he said softly. The storm has passed. Maya nodded, eyes glistening. Yes, Papa. But storms leave lessons too. Weeks later, the courthouse steps were crowded with journalists as the verdict was read. Vincent Adebayo, guilty on all counts. The news spread like wildfire across national headlines. The once untouchable mogul had fallen, and the woman he underestimated, the one he called a pity story, had become the symbol of justice and resilience. Outside the courthouse, Maya faced the flashing cameras with grace. Her scarf fluttered in the wind as microphones were thrust toward her. Mrs. Whitaker, one reporter asked, how does it feel to finally see justice served? Maya smiled gently. Justice isn't about revenge, she said. It's about balance. What was broken has been made right again. Will you rebuild your foundation? Another asked. Yes, she said. But not just rebuild. Expand. There are others out there, people fighting in silence, people who've been cast aside because they were seen as burdens. I want to give them their voice back. The reporters pressed in closer, cameras clicking like applause. What message would you like to leave for those watching your story? A woman from CNN called out. Maya turned slightly toward the crowd, her eyes soft but fierce. Never let anyone convince you that your worth depends on what you can do for them. Real strength isn't in what you carry, it's in what you overcome. The applause that followed wasn't thunderous, it was real, rippling through the gathered crowd like a heartbeat. As the police led Vincent out in handcuffs, he glanced at her briefly. There was no smirk now, no arrogance, only defeat. For a moment their eyes met. Maya's gaze didn't hold anger anymore. Just peace. She turned away. That evening, the sky was painted with hues of amber and violet. Maya and her father sat by the balcony once again, watching the sun sink behind the skyline. "Do you ever miss her?" Maya asked quietly, referring to her late mother. The chief smiled softly. "Every day. But tonight, I think she's smiling at us." Maya nodded, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. "I think so too." Below, the lights of the city flickered to life. Cars, homes, office towers, all glowing like scattered stars. Chief Obinna raised a glass of palm wine. "To second chances," he said. Maya clinked her glass gently against his. "To peace." They sat together in silence as the night deepened, father and daughter, both battle-worn, both healed in their own ways. And somewhere in the distance, a gentle breeze rustled through the trees, whispering like a voice from another time. "Strength is born in storms, but peace is earned when you choose not to become one." Narrator's voice for the end of the YouTube story. And that, dear viewers, was the story of Maya, the woman who was thrown into the rain but rose to command the storm. What lesson did you take from her journey? Do you believe forgiveness should follow betrayal, or is justice the only closure? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. If you were touched by this story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more powerful African folktales, and share it with someone who believes in second chances. Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. We love hearing from you.